Hi, this is Steffi, and welcome to the Financial Fox, investing and innovation ideas with a twist. Before I introduce the topic of today's podcast and our amazing guest, I would like to thank you all our subscribers for liking and sharing the content. This is amazing. I love you all, and thank you so much for supporting the channel. So today we are going to talk about gaming and blockchain. We discuss about governance, but also NFTs, which is the hottest, the coolest things ever, and also why people love games so much, and what are the next trends in the industry. So my special guest is Aleksander Larsen. He's a co-founder and COO of Axie Infinity, which is a digital pet universe that turns players into owners. So kind of like a Pokemon-inspired universe where anyone can actually earn tokens through some kind of gameplay and also contribute to the ecosystem, which is very important. So kind of like an evolution of gaming. And I'm so interested to see, how we started the project, what is actually happening with the Axie. They managed to get so much revenue, and really want to understand how they've done that, what they are developing at the moment, and where they think the gaming industry is going to evolve. It's going to be a very interesting interview. So let me introduce you to Aleksander, and then we can kick off. Hi, Alex. How are you?
Hi, Stefania. I'm great. Thank you. Really happy to be here to talk a little bit about Axie, NFTs, and where we see the space moving forward.
Okay, that's nice. I'm really interested to talk about gaming as well, because it's kind of like a sector that is pretty much known to the people who likes games. But the world is changing, and gaming is getting more and more relevant, more interesting also for any person and anybody. But listen, before we get into that, I would like you to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into gaming, and then in Axie as well.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Aleksander. I am the oldest person, the oldest founder in Sky Mavis and Axie Infinity. I am one
How
of
old are you,
the.
first
I
of
am 35,
all?
so
Oh,
pretty much everyone in the team is
like
between
my age, so we
20.
are old people in the young generation.
Yeah, but everyone else in my team is between either 20 or 30. So we're quite a young and aggressive team. But yeah, our company is basically we build Axie Infinity and also various infrastructure things for the blockchain gaming space. So that's very much our focus. And my background is actually within kind of competitive gaming. So I played actually competitive before it was popular or cool. So I would say maybe 15 to 10 years ago, I played really high level there. Other than that, I'm also educated at a financial institution in Norway. Before I quit my Norwegian job, I worked for the States, and then I quit my job and moved into the NFT and blockchain gaming space in late 2017, early 2018. So since that time, we've been building out Axie Infinity, and then also kind of now lately focusing more on Sky Mavis and also the tools and the infrastructure that's required for other game companies to start building in the space.
Wow, that's pretty interesting to have a mix of gaming and also finance background. Anyway, we will get to that when we talk about DeFi, but maybe introduce us to Axie Infinity. What is it?
Yeah, so at a very high level, Axie Infinity is a pet universe, a digital pet universe here, where you have cute characters that are called Axies that you can use in many different games inside the same universe. So we, as kind of the main game studio, we create a couple of games, and then we also want to open up for other players or the community to make their own games too. So you can think about it like you have your main pet, and you can travel across many different games inside the Axie universe. So that's how we view that.
Oh, that's really interesting. So basically, you grow your pet, and then you're gonna start to fight. You're gonna start to collect items for it. So it's kind of like building up some kind of ownership in a way inside the game.
Yeah, so there are different things that players can do. To actually interact with any of the games, you need at least the two axes. So then you can play the breeding game. And if you have three axes, then you can play a battle game, which is kind of similar to something like a Pokemon game, where it's like turn based. So you do something, your opponent does something, and then they battle against each other. So it's a very much like similar to what people might recognize as a Pokemon battle.
And I understand there is also a land aspect that is coming up.
Yeah, that's right. We are continuously developing new features inside Axie Infinity, and the land gameplay is probably what's most exciting to many players. So you can consider that like Clash of Clans, very famous, of course, mobile game. So all of the games that we create, they're highly focused on mobile first. So we believe that the mobile market is generally where the margins are the highest and where we can reach the most people at the like easiest.
Okay, that's really interesting. So maybe we can start to talk about DeFi because obviously this is something that has to do with Axie and also is also where the gaming industry is getting more and more traction.
Yeah, so I think at this point maybe we should start with the metrics of what we have. I mean, so far Sky Mirror Axie has generated over $4.5 million in revenue since we started, and we have over $20 million in transactional volume on our internal marketplace where people are trading these game characters among each others. And a big reason for that is, of course, that they have some kind of inherent value, right? There is some kind of things that you can do with your Axies or with your NFTs. So just in that case, we are a little bit different from where you can say many of these art NFTs at the moment, where people can't really do anything. You can just own it and sell it. In Axie, if you have your game character, and if you own it, that gives you the right to play with it. So it's very kind of easy to understand what ownership of an NFT is in this case. And when you are then playing the game, you can earn tokens, and then you can use these tokens inside the open financial ecosystem that is on Ethereum right now. So that might be if you want to, let's say, trade it on Uniswap that exists, or let's say even you can collateralize your NFT on some other exchanges and then get new tokens from that. So there are many different things that you can do when you interact with an open financial ecosystem.
Well, you mentioned about some amazing number of revenue. So, they put you kind of like the first best game played actually on Ethereum, isn't it?
Yeah, so when you look at both the daily active users numbers, where we have over 24,000 players who are playing on a daily basis, and even over 30,000 who are playing on a weekly basis, it basically sets us apart from pretty much everything that is on Ethereum right now. And we would also argue generally in the blockchain space. So what we like to compare it is that whenever people want to play Axie right now, let's say if they want to trade their Axies, they have to pay very expensive gas fees, but still our players are doing that because they see that the opportunity is so big. So they are kind of that gives us a good idea of how strong the product market fit is when people are willing to jump through all these hoops to play the game.
It looks like it's addictive. What's the secret of this game that, people are just playing like mad and they don't care about, the cost?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, about the fact that we've been building over time. We've been adding value to these assets, and we're starting to gain the trust of the community so that they can see that if they buy an expensive Axie, for example, like some of the truly rare ones, they will hold value for a long time. So it's starting to become more of a financial asset class. In the same sense that some of these other like art pieces are assets in financial assets, and that also gives a true like trust to the platform itself. And then we get more and more users who come in because they see that there is an opportunity to basically make money inside the game. And I think that's a little bit scary, from a game developer perspective, because we always try to see what is the motivating factor for players. Because when you are making a game, you always want people to basically feel it inside. They want to be happy, like intrinsically motivated. But when you play something like, or when you interact with the blockchain, people are always extrinsically motivated because they can make money. So from our perspective, it's our job as game developers to basically use this kind of the yield farming that's available inside Axie to make them fall in love with the game, to make them fall in love with the art, so that they then can kind of become like inhabitants of the digital nation, which we like to call Axie, and the universe as a whole.
Wow, that's amazing. But another aspect that I wanted to discuss is about governance. You mentioned before that you are building things over time, and that when I read your website and your information, there is also this element about governance that you want to integrate slowly. So you plan to move over time into a fully decentralized organization, but you really stress on the fact that it has to be done over time. Can you just explain what you mean? Why that is the strategy and where actually you want to get, so what you are trying to achieve?
Yeah, so it's a really good question, and basically what we know is that it's super hard to make a sustainable network or a game that functions over time, and especially as you need kind of a ship captain, someone that sets the course and builds something great, and then eventually you can progressively decentralize, so you can open up for more and more and more, that the community can make decisions within certain aspects of the game. And that basically means that the people who can make decisions, they also need to have a stake in the universe, and that's what we have our own token for. And what makes this pretty exciting is that we believe that by opening up the network to other players, we can basically achieve a massive viral growth, because this has not been done before in the same sense that we are. So you can consider it in the same sense that basically what's happening. Well, in Ready Player One, there is, for example, a period of time where people can come in, they can find some super cool keys and participate in a mega treasure hunt. We are going to be doing the same thing in Axie, where we are going to be delivering out our own like governance token to people who are actually playing the game in a massive kind of treasure hunt. And we think that can really drive tremendous amount of attention and viral growth into our game universe. So I'm super excited to kind of do that. And that also is, of course, tied into governance, because then we can distribute the tokens to many, many different players and get many different kind of opinions on how this should be run. But that is also for the long term, because to create a sustainable system, we really need to make sure that the foundation is kind of really good at first.
And strong, yeah, exactly, because at the moment is Sky Mavis is kind of like owning like a big stake in the project, isn't it?
Yeah, so Sky Mavis is the company that's behind like building out Axie. You can consider it like Axie Infinity Labs, or it's the company on top. And that means that we have to have incentives to also keep building. And if we don't have the proper incentives, it would be very easy for us to kind of just stop building. But the way that we do that is that we are keeping a lot of the tokens on our own balance sheet. And that basically aligns the incentives between us as the main kind of developer of the company of the game, and also the token holders who are investing directly or buying the tokens directly. And I think we think that's a really great way of doing it, because then there is no kind of no tax that's progressively going back into the main company. We need to hold the tokens to be able to extract value from the ecosystem, and that's basically the way we think that tokens should work, pretty much for all kind of products.
That's great. Do we want maybe to talk a little bit more about the technology and how do you manage to build up such a good user experience?
Mhm. Yeah. So what I would say is that we still have a long way to go. Basically, where we are in the kind of the early stages of crypto, there's still it's really hard to get started. But what we're looking for right now is just to turn Axie Infinity into a free to play game, so that anyone can basically start to play or demo the game. They don't need to have any crypto wallet; they can just do it directly. But if you want to play right now, you need to have a crypto wallet. You need to buy Axies for over $500 just to get started. But the good thing is that once you have the Axies, then it's like any other kind of game, except that it has the added benefits of using blockchain technology in a great way. And we think that that's what will separate our or kind of all these blockchain type of games, is the benefits that it brings. We just need to be good enough so that other games and other players can see it, and they are responding so well to the benefits that we have, that they are flocking into the game, even though it's very early in early access. So super
I,
exciting.
I understand that. But listen, about user experience, do you maybe want to give us 3 or 4 points that identify Axie user experience and you think you are your strength, basically?
Yeah. So what I would say in terms of user experience is that whenever people are finding the community, they can. There is like always different kind of guides. It's easy for people to find relevant news. And for us, it's like we have a couple of main channels, which would be Twitter, for example, where we are very active. We're sharing it with our players. And then we basically disperse the information down to the player base, and they are sharing it because they are stakeholders too. And then we have a Discord channel, which we are basically helping a lot of people all the time. We have community helpers. We have our own support squad who is there available to help players. And then, of course, once they have the Axies, it's pretty straightforward. You can go in, you can start to play the game like any normal type of game, and then you have an adventure mode that you can play, and you learn what you need to do with these with the tokens that are available. Like, and we also use YouTube quite a lot for education, actually.
Yeah. I think that's is always very important. Education, education, education.
Hmm.
In the crypto space is like the main word. Now, obviously, Ethereum has got some limitation, which are, you know, expense fee, the transaction time. So how you are managing to get around those limitations to make sure they are not, you know, too limiting for you, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, so actually we've been building, since early 2018. And at the time, there wasn't really that many. Like, Ethereum seemed that it would scale pretty fast, and that was always the always the promise that Ethereum is going to scale in 2018, 2019, and 2020. It never really happened. So we started even seeing the contestation of Ethereum early in 2018, late 2019, or late 2018, when, for example, DeFi really started to gain traction, because people are much more willing to pay expensive gas fees to get their decentralized finance transaction in the Ethereum blockchain. So for us as a game studio, it doesn't make sense to actually use Ethereum for everything when it comes to all the game logic, right? So we have our own server, our centralized server, which is basically computing all the game stuff. So when players are playing against each other, when they're finding stuff inside the game, that happens on our own server. But whenever they want to mint or turn basically their resources into tokens, that's when they start interacting with smart contracts. And these smart contracts right now, they are on Ethereum, but we are building out our own sidechain, which is basically built using the Ethereum virtual machine. So for us, it's very easy to basically fork off our existing smart contract and take pieces of the Ethereum infrastructure and bring on to Ronin, which is our sidechain. And that gives us a massive kind of competitive edge in the space where everyone is trying to build kind of products they are trying to solve problems for such a massive kind of audience. Meanwhile, we are just solving the main problems for ourselves so that we can provide the best user experience for our users, and that's our priority only. So I think Jesse Walden from Variant Fund, he loves to say this, and I agree with this specific quote, where we are right now in the server era of kind of the blockchain. And in that sense, I mean that we are back in the day when internet started. People always need to have their own servers in the basement because it was so hard to actually get your website hosted online because things were going down. It didn't scale. The same thing is happening now in the blockchain space, where people or the most popular applications will have their own blockchains for a period of time, which will then sync up to the main blockchain or to the layer one. And and these are, you can use different kind of technologies to do that, of course, whether it be like proof of authority that we are using building Ethereum. You can use like zk rollup, optimism. Like, there are all these kind of scaling things that will happen. Not everyone is a sidechain. There are layer two solutions that are coming. So I'm incredibly bullish on the Ethereum ecosystem. But right now it doesn't really work for what we need it to work for.
Listen, tell me, what are you expecting from the next version?
For Ethereum itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I believe in is that Ethereum as the layer one, Ethereum will win layer one of Web3. And I think that it will be so popular to get your transaction on the main Ethereum chain that it doesn't really matter how like powerful ETH2 is, because as more and more people experience the benefits of using the blockchain, more and more applications will want to use this kind of global good. So in that sense, you can say that even though you're scaling the highway from 2 fields to like 20, there will just become more cars. Like, more cars will come, it's going to fill up immediately. So for us as kind of a game application, that means that we maybe need to take another route to succeed. And for those players who are having like the most expensive Axies, for example, they will probably want to be on the main Ethereum chain. And that's basically just because it's more security there. And that makes perfect sense for us. we are basically just offering up a service that is a little bit less secure in terms of like decentralization, and that is also a design choice, something that we are deciding for the users because we need to provide the best user experience for the players. And if we don't do that, like there is no way for us to scale to millions of users like we want to.
Yeah, that's a good point. Listen, let's go a little bit beyond the game. Obviously,
Mhm.
gaming is becoming more and more relevant in our daily lives. If we think about virtual reality, how things can change in the future, how do you see the gaming industry expanding outside its border?
Yeah, so what I believe in is that there is no incentive right now for the larger game studios to actually use this new technology for their games. Because what it means is that when you are doing it in the right way, you're actually sharing parts of the revenue with the users who are playing your game. So the bottom line will be like less profitable if you look at it kind of in isolation, but the benefits for the players are much larger. So you build more loyalty, engagement, retention, and we have clear metrics on that. So for now, there is no incentive for them to do it. But when the players ask for it, when they first started to experience it, we believe that everyone will have to kind of start to move into this direction, and there will be a like there is a specter or a spectrum of how like blockchainified your application could be. So some might only use NFTs, for example, for their skins, for parts of badges or whatever that might be. And then you would have those who go on the opposite, like totally opposite side, like Axie, where we want to open up the entire game universe for to make it into a DAO, so that we can really tap into these network effects. And I think that's what's really most exciting about what's happening here.
So you think that kind of the world is moving from more a centralized system that you mentioned before about the big games to a more recognize actually the value of a more decentralized ecosystem where actually people are empowered. So there will be so many players that want to be empowered that they are going to take over the centralized system. So for the centralized will be less demand, and that basically the shift will happen naturally.
Yeah, I think, it's the same thing that's happening with these big technology platforms. People have a right to own their own data, and that also means whatever they do inside games. It doesn't mean that the game developers will have to make these massive virtual worlds. It just means that whatever it is that I do, I should have an option if I want to bring it with me to another game, not to use necessarily, but just to have as a part of my own digital identity. And that is something that I think people will demand, because it doesn't make sense that these large companies sit on that data, no matter what it is. Like that could be Facebook data, that could be NFT, like that could be game data. It's the same principle, because no matter what it is that you do online, that should be yours. So that's kind of my basic, like what my belief is, and what I'm working towards.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because being able to bring your data, own it, and bring, as you said, bring it to another reality. That's really is. I mean, is the disruptive, is game changing, and yeah, is really is interesting. Let's maybe talk a bit about NFTs. So I understand that you are also an art collector, which
Mhm.
is great. And yeah, tell maybe a little bit about what you collect and also what is happening with all these NFTs mania hype or whatever. They're all going mad.
Sure. So I would say that I started collecting a little bit of art, like in early last year. Started finding a couple of artists that I thought were doing cool things, and I wanted to support them in their journey, and I wanted to connect with them more than just kind of looking at it. So when you're buying an NFT art piece, you are buying the proof of ownership for that art piece. It doesn't mean that you're buying anything else. It just means that you are signaling that you are the owner, that you purchased it for someone, that you can resell it, and that you can potentially use it for something else in the future if someone else decides to give it like more utility. I think that's a little bit of a core concept that people are struggling with right now if they're new to the NFT space, because you just say, I mean, I can print screen a picture and I can look at it. Like that's all cool, but that doesn't mean that you own it. For example, in Axie, anyone can print screen in Axie, but unless you own that character, you cannot use it inside the game. And it's the same principle for Ethereum or Ether or Bitcoin or whatever kind of cryptocurrency that you're using. Same thing for art. If you own that art piece, it gives you the proof of ownership that you can then do with what you want. That's it. And for me, as an art collector, I like to find up and coming artists, for example, who I see that their art might not be too expensive. They are they have been doing this for quite some time. They are experimenting with a little bit of a new space, rather than being like this very cash grabby. They are minting millions of dollars of art. Like, that's not really what I like to do. I would rather support someone who is a little bit smaller and then join them on their journey, and then eventually kind of lend my leverage to that, so that they maybe can become even more successful in the future. And that's also about the artists themselves, right? They need to understand what it means to mint an NFT. And I think a lot of artists actually don't really understand that. They're just seeing, oh, I can make some money here. That's great. It's more than that. You are minting a part of your identity onto the chain, and then allowing other people to speculate on that. And I think people will start to realize the importance of having a really early art piece of a specific collector. So let's say if you were a collector, or if you were you of a specific artist, if you were an artist, you have been doing something for 20 years, and then you just, whatever, I'm just going to mint something on the blockchain and I'm going to forget about it. You are basically diluting your own value for the future, because you have used your social capital by selling that NFT. And if you then don't provide any value to the collectors or to the community as a whole, you are making, at least in my opinion, a pretty big mistake.
I love the fact that you mentioned about supporting the artists, because I think what, everybody, as you said, that is thinking about making money, selling things, trying new stuff, but it's about actually supporting an artist and fund this artist work to become bigger and to become a community good, in a way, a social good. And it's so important, this support aspect, that I think is quite overlooked, really.
Yeah, people, I mean, it's easy to, if you just come into the space as an artist and you see, oh, people are just selling things for crazy amounts of money, you don't really realize what the crypto thing is all about. And that is actually community. And that's something that we've been building in Axie for a really, really long time, been focusing on that aspect of it. And if you make mistakes, I mean, people can forgive one mistake, but if you make it continuously, you will have no trust, you have no credibility, and your assets are then useless and worthless. And I think that's something that artists actually understand from the traditional art space too, because if you just keep like pumping out bad artwork all the time because you want to make money, that also makes it less exclusive. And it's like that kind of game, right? You need to be able to play the game a little bit, and also kind of talk to the right people, and then build value for your collectors too, because nobody would buy something if like, I wouldn't buy something from a random artist if I thought that that person would just like stop caring tomorrow, and trash talk everyone else who's got their art. Like, that is not attractive to me at all.
I mean, you mentioned about something unique. That brings back to the scarcity of the NFTs. That obviously is the core value of Axie, and in general is for kind of any NFT. What you think? I mean, you will probably have a famous artist, right? Or a famous, an artist that you quite like. Maybe it's not famous, it's just started. Maybe if you could share, an artist that you have been following, you think is doing a good job in you kind of building this or showing this responsibility towards the community. That would be great.
Sure, I have a few that I like a lot. Like, I'm not gonna name the top. I mean, I can say it, but in not in any particular order. I like there's a guy called Silvio Vieira. He is making a lot of really cool stuff. Josie is also great. I think she has amazing art. And then Goldweird, I think, makes some really cool things as well. So these are some of my personal favorites. So I'm not sure if they are like at the peak level of artistry. I think Josie will be a massive one. Her art is super expensive already. So I have one of my favorite art pieces from her, probably.
Okay. Any comment on Beeple?
I mean, Beeple is great. I wish I had some Beeple stuff, but I didn't buy into it. It's not my taste personally, so that, I think that's cool. Like, I think he's just an incredible marketer. Really amazing job there. It's become its own. Like, I do hold some B20 tokens because I like that. But other than that, I don't really have anything because it's so expensive. So I don't really want to speculate so much on that. I think it makes more sense to support others who maybe need my help a little bit more, or can recognize the value that potentially I can bring to them. So that just makes me feel better rather than owning something that everyone else has.
No, no, that's a good point. So, how you think the NFT market is gonna go in order to mature as well? Because now there is this big hype, and as you said, I think many people don't understand the intrinsic value of the NFT. So the history behind it, the kind of all the emotion, the feelings, the intention, that all comes as part of, the social capital that the artist is bringing into the token, into, into this piece of art. Um, yeah. So where do you how do you think the industry is going to evolve?
I
And
mean,
ultimate, that's also very interesting. How do you think the NFTs is going to apply to other industry, for example, financial markets?
oh yeah. For like how the NFT space is evolving, I definitely think that we're in a little bit of a bubble right now. Like prices are sky high for everything. When new artists come in, they start to sell stuff for 3-4 ether. It doesn't really make much sense immediately. So what I would expect is like a pretty massive retrace, maybe 50-70% even, pretty fast. But it's hard to say. I think NFTs are here to stay for good. We're going to see the most solid artists who just keep building over time, and the best NFT games as well. They keep just adding value to their assets, and those will just keep like become more and more valuable. So there should be a couple of big winners, but most of them, most of the artists who come in right now, they really need to kind of have an outline of a. It's like you need a go to market strategy quite clearly if you're an artist right now, if you're going to succeed, to build your own reputation and then make sure that you can handle the swings when like your art piece will go down in value too, because it's just inevitable. And then it's about like having that grit to keep sustaining. So it's going to be very interesting in the next couple of years. And also, of course, the fact that the Ethereum gas fees are so crazy, it also puts a stop to kind of the show, because like it costs people maybe a couple of $100 even just to mint some NFTs. So it's kind of a deterring if you just want to start small. You can't sell for so cheaply. So I believe that the supply of NFTs, as kind of the gas costs go down, will greatly outstrip demand in the medium, like in the short, medium, and even long term. So we will have so many NFTs. Everything will be an NFT in the end. So it's like the same thing as you have in the real world. You can buy something, but that doesn't mean that it's an investable asset. It's totally different kind of mindset when you were investing in something, right? Now, moving on to what you talked about in terms of DeFi and NFTs. I mean, so just reading briefly about the Uniswap V3, for example, where it says that you can actually the LP positions that you have, I believe, will be stored as NFTs. So basically, you can reuse them as liquidity or as you can lock them in other smart contracts and get another token based on that collateral. Like that means that that you can basically keep like the show can go on forever. It's like the traditional financial markets. So it's quite interesting to see how things can evolve, and even not only that, but also to kind of take it back to games as kind of a final point. I think that everything that we envision in terms of NFT is like, what does it mean to if you think that, oh, a plot of land can be sort of an NFT? Well, that's happening in games already. If you think that assets can be like potentially an NFT, well, that's happening too. Everything that we imagine will happen in the game universes first because they are digital by default. And then things will happen in the real life after that because it's already been proven. At least that is my belief.
Yeah, great. Listen, before we close up, just tell us what we should expect from Axie in the next few months.
Yeah, so we're incredibly excited about our massive upgrade to the new battle system, which should be going to market pretty soon. And then also, of course, activating staking for the AXS token should be pretty amazing. And then starting to so that people can stake it and earn rewards. So I mean, a lot of cool stuff happening both on the Axie Infinity kind of game side and also on the token side. So for those who haven't really heard about Axie and Axie Infinity, I definitely uh, would say take a look into our white paper. It's very simple, whitepaper.axieinfinity.com, and visit us on Twitter. It's called Axie Infinity. There you can see that people are incredibly passionate about what we are building. So just get involved if you want to reach out to us. We try to answer, but right now there's just so much demand that we can't really answer everyone, unfortunately. But it's a good kind of problem, right? But in the future, we expect that it will be even more. So it's never too late.
Fantastic, Aleksander. It was such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Stefania. I was happy to be here.
Yeah, I look forward to see the changes and the upgrade. It's going to be exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, this is everything from the Financial Fox today. I really hope that you enjoyed the episode, and if you like it, share it, and I will see you next time.